crimson dawn, new moon rising, a world teetering on the edge of oblivion faces new, formidable threats. As humans and their vampire allies fortify their defenses with silver, a sinister evolution unfolds. Undead werewolves, immune to shadow powers, prowl the land, led by a powerful alpha. Meanwhile, in the shadows, an intelligent zombie, a master of necromantic sciences, crafts grotesque, undead abominations, heralding a new era of horror. 3 factions converge in an imminent clash of wills and strengths, where survival is the ultimate prize. Dive into this chilling saga, where alliances are tested, enemies evolve, and the fight for existence becomes more desperate than ever. Crimson Dawn, New Moon Rising. A tale of resilience, terror, and the unyielding fight against the darkness. Chapter 1. The Shadow and the Wolf. In the secure vampire-protected camp, a sense of cautious prosperity had begun to take root. Survivors worked alongside their unlikely protectors, crafting a semblance of normalcy in a world that had long forgotten the meaning of the word. Alex, now a prominent figure in the camp, engaged in a deep conversation with Varric and Alara, 2 of the elder vampires. Their discussion centered around unsettling rumors brought by new arrivals, tales of a new breed of werewolf, immune to the zombie virus, terrorizing the remnants of humanity. Alex listened intently, his brow furrowed in concern. "What do you know about these creatures?" he asked. Varric, his ageless eyes reflecting centuries of knowledge, spoke with a tone of caution. "In the past, many an elder has fallen to a lichen. They are ferocious, driven by an instinct of pure rage. We generally avoid them. Our shadow forms have never affected lichens. In physical form, they could easily tear us apart." Alara added, her voice tinged with uncertainty. "But we have no idea about undead lichens. Perhaps our shadow form might affect them, or it could potentially strengthen them. It's a risk we haven't faced before." The camp, despite these alarming discussions, continued to thrive under the protection of the elders. New arrivals came daily, each bringing skills, stories, and sometimes warnings. The community expanded, building more shelters, organizing food supplies, and strengthening their defenses. Among the newcomers, a singular message echoed fear of an alpha wolf, leading an army of undead werewolves. It was said to be an unstoppable force, leaving only destruction in its wake. As the chapter concluded, the camp settled into the night, a community bonded by survival against the darkness outside. The elders, vigilant and watchful, pondered the implications of this new threat. The tale of Crimson Dawn, New Moon Rising, had begun, promising a struggle not only against the undead, but against a force of nature that was both ancient and terrifyingly new. Chapter 2. Preparing for the unknown. In the vampire-protected camp, months had passed without a single zombie attack, a development that was welcomed with cautious optimism. The dwindling signs of the virus gave the survivors a much-needed opportunity to strengthen their community. The camp had transformed into a self-sufficient haven. Fields of crops spread across what used to be barren land, an efficient irrigation system keeping them watered. Hot water systems were rigged up, and electric generators hummed in the background, a sign of the progress they had made. With farms, renewable energy sources, and reinforced defenses, the camp was a beacon of hope in the post-apocalyptic wilderness. Elena, the camp leader, was in deep conversation with Alex about plans for expansion, when a sudden commotion interrupted them. Rushing to the source, they found a scout group that had just returned from a neighboring city. The scouts' faces were etched with fear. "We saw something terrifying," one scout reported breathlessly. 3 wolf-like creatures, their skin hanging off as if dead. but they were moving, prowling. It's just a 2-day walk from here. Gathering with the elders, they relayed the scouts' findings. There was an air of grim determination as they discussed potential defenses against werewolves. "We have ways to stop ordinary lichens," Varric said, "but we're unsure about these undead variants." 2 of the elders, Morella and Reese, left and returned hours later with a large, ancient chest. With a dramatic thud, they placed it on the ground. The chest burst open, spilling a hoard of silver coins. "We can smelt these," Elara suggested, "turning them into weapons and defenses, projectiles, spears, fortified barriers." The camp's engineer, a young woman named Lucy, stepped forward with ideas. "We can create silver-tipped arrows and bullets, maybe even coat some of our walls and fences with silver." The camp sprang into action, fueled by the urgent need to prepare for a possible attack. Smelting stations were set up, and the once valuable coins were melted down and refashioned into various weapons and defense mechanisms. Lucy took charge of designing the new armaments, ensuring every piece had a touch of silver. As the chapter closed, the camp was a hive of activity, every survivor contributing to fortifying their sanctuary against the looming threat. The fear of the unknown hung heavily in the air, but so did a sense of unity and purpose. The story of Crimson Dawn, New Moon Rising, was evolving into a tale of not just survival, but resilience and ingenuity in the face of the darkest threats. Chapter 3. In the desolate expanse of an abandoned city, 3 undead werewolves prowled the streets, their senses sharp and focused. They moved through the silent buildings and empty shopping centres with a predatory grace, their noses twitching as they followed a faint scent. The trail, however, soon became muddled, lost amidst a mass of undead bodies that littered the streets, their decaying scent overpowering any other trace. Suddenly, a distant howl pierced the stillness of the city, a call for assistance. The 3 undead werewolves, responding to the urgent summons, raced through the urban jungle. Their movements were swift and unhampered, the obstacles of the city nothing more than mere nuisances in their path. As they neared the source of the howl, they came upon a ferocious scene. 5 of their undead kin were locked in battle against a horde of zombies. Normally, such a fight would be quickly won by the werewolves, but this time, something was different. The zombies fought back with unusual strength and resilience, indicating a disturbing development. One of the werewolf pack members, despite its undead nature, had been grievously injured, rendering it incapable of continuing the fight effectively. The zombies' relentless onslaught showed signs of evolution, a terrifying adaptation in their quest for survival. With the arrival of the 3 reinforcements, the tides of battle shifted. The combined strength of the 8 undead werewolves quickly overwhelmed the remaining zombies, dispatching them with brutal efficiency. As the last of the zombies fell, the pack united once more, resuming their search for human settlements. They re-entered the city, determined to pick up the scent trail they had lost. The chapter took a moment to delve into the implications of this new development. The zombie virus was mutating, giving rise to zombies that were stronger and alarmingly displaying signs of increased intelligence. This evolution suggested the potential for unique mutations, zombies that were not only more robust but also more cunning, posing an even greater threat to the survivors. As the undead werewolves disappeared into the shadows of the city, the chapter closed with a sense of foreboding. The world of Crimson Dawn, New Moon Rising, was changing, the lines between predator and prey blurring further as each side adapted in their relentless struggle for survival. Chapter 4. The Siege of the Alpha's Kingdom. In a city now ruled by the undead, the alpha werewolf had established a dominion unlike any other. His kingdom, a conquered city, had been transformed into a fortress for his burgeoning pack. Hundreds of undead werewolves patrolled the streets, guarding every entrance with vigilant eyes. The pack, now a formidable force, welcomed back a scout party, leading a group of 12 human survivors from a distant camp. These unfortunate souls, captured and brought to the Alpha's kingdom, were presented before the towering, fearsome leader. As the humans pleaded for mercy, the Alpha moved among them with swift, merciless efficiency. With each bite, the humans collapsed, only to convulse violently and rise again as lichens, the newest recruits to his expanding army. An undead werewolf approached, ready to initiate the transformation into undead hybrids, but the Alpha issued a primal snarl, a command to halt. These 12 would remain as pure lichens, untouched by the curse of undeath. Just as a sense of calm settled over the kingdom, chaos erupted. The unthinkable happened. The Alpha's fortress was under attack. A large horde of zombies, led by 2 grotesquely mutated zombies, besieged the kingdom. These mutations were giants among their kind, wielding massive, makeshift weapons, their strikes crushing the undead werewolves beneath their immense power. The mutated zombies fought with a terrifying intelligence, commanding the hundreds of smaller, but equally mutated undead in a strategic assault. The Alpha, witnessing the threat, let out a thunderous roar. In response, the undead werewolves turned even more feral and bestial, their attacks reaching a frenzied, berserker-like intensity. A brutal, bloody battle ensued, with significant losses on both sides. Eventually, the sheer ferocity of the undead werewolves turned the tide, leading to their hard-fought victory. In the aftermath, the Alpha examined the remains of the 2 mutated zombies. Sniffing and inspecting the body parts, the Alpha seemed to contemplate the evolution of their enemy. The virus, it appeared, was undergoing a rapid mutation, accelerating thousands of years in evolutionary terms. It was adapting, becoming stronger and smarter, in a bid to avoid extinction. The Alpha stood amidst the battlefield, surrounded by the fallen. The world of Crimson Dawn, New Moon Rising, was entering a new phase, where the virus itself was becoming a more formidable adversary, forcing every creature, undead or alive, to adapt or perish in this never-ending dance of survival. Chapter 5. Fortifications and Sacrifices. In the Fortified Camp, Elena and Alex, along with a group of camp members, surveyed their defenses with a sense of cautious pride. "These fortifications should hold up against any Lycan attack," Elena remarked, observing the reinforced walls and newly installed defense mechanisms. Varric and Alara joined them, bringing news that added a layer of gravity to the conversation. "The virus is evolving," Varric shared, his voice carrying the weight of centuries. "All life, when facing extinction, will fight to survive. This evolution could give rise to larger, more dangerous undead." Alex let out a dry laugh. "Great. Undead werewolves and now mutated zombies. Just keeps getting better, doesn't it?" Alara nodded thoughtfully. "Our shadow energy remains effective against the virus, but its impact on lichens is uncertain. It's almost like a game of rock, paper, scissors with these evolving threats." As night fell, the camp prepared for the feeding ritual, the necessary sacrifice for the Elders' protection. Camp members lined up, a mix of resignation and understanding on their faces. One by one, the Elders bit into their necks, drawing just enough blood to sustain them. The sight was unsettling, reminding everyone of the parasitic nature of this arrangement. Some had suggested blood donations, or storing blood in cups to ease the discomfort of the process, but the Elders had explained the necessity of lifeblood drawn directly from a living, beating heart. "This is the price of our survival," Alara whispered, her eyes reflecting a somber acknowledgement of the grim reality. The chapter closed on a poignant note, highlighting the complex relationship between the camp members and the elders. The camp, while growing and strengthening, was bound to the elders by a bond that was both protective and parasitic. In the world of Crimson Dawn, New Moon Rising, survival came at a cost, and every day was a reminder of the delicate balance between life and the shadow of death. Chapter 6. Arrival of the Wounded. At the camp's entrance, Captain Sarah Knox and her two companions stood weary but determined. After a thorough check for bites or any signs of the virus, they were allowed inside. Captain Knox and her companion, Emma, were quickly ushered to meet with the main members of the camp, and Varric. Captain Knox recounted the harrowing events at Haven and the island, detailing the futility of their defenses against the alpha werewolf. "It was like facing a force of nature," she said, her voice heavy with the memory. "This alpha werewolf, it's unlike anything I've ever seen. Its power was unnatural. Its strength left everything it touched in ruins." She explained how the undead werewolves seemed to act as scouts. Once they find a camp, it's not long before the alpha arrives, and when he does, he's unstoppable. The camp leaders listened intently, their faces etched with concern. "We've reinforced the camp with silver spikes," Elena said, gesturing towards the fortifications. "And we've even developed a silver powder that lingers in the air. It should make contact with a lichen without us having to get near them." Captain Knox looked intrigued. "I thought silver also affected vampires," she commented. Varric responded with a slight wry smile. "First off, we do not like being called vampires. We are simply elders. And no, silver does not affect us. In fact, I am quite fond of it." As the chapter closed, a sense of mutual understanding and respect settled among the group. Despite the daunting threat posed by the alpha werewolf, the camp's innovative defenses and the elders' wisdom offered a glimmer of hope. Yet the question lingered. Would it be enough to withstand the ferocity of the alpha and its pack? The story of Crimson Dawn, New Moon Rising, continued, with the survivors bracing for what may come, armed with knowledge, determination, and a newfound alliance. Chapter 7. The Ambush Plan. Urgency filled the air as scouts rushed back to camp with a critical report. "A group of undead werewolves has been spotted," one scout announced, breathless from the haste. "They're just minutes away, and it looks like they've picked up a trail." Elena, the camp leader, quickly grasped the gravity of the situation. "If they report back to the Alpha, we'll have a full-scale assault on our hands," she stated. "We need to take out this group before they can return." The scouts confirmed there were 7 undead werewolves in the approaching party. The camp immediately sprang into action, gathering their specially crafted weapons. Silver arrows and the few silver bullets made from the remnants of their gunpowder supply were distributed among the fighters. Additionally, they readied silver dust grenades and shields with silver-coated spikes. "We need to ambush them before they spot our camp," Elena instructed. "If even one gets back to the Alpha, it's over for us." With the elders in their resting state, unable to assist until nightfall, the burden of the ambush fell on the human members of the camp. Alex, taking charge of the group, began to orchestrate the ambush. Captain Knox, driven by a desire for retribution, volunteered to join. "I want some payback," she declared. Equipped and ready, the group, including Captain Knox, quietly made their way to the planned ambush spot. The tension was palpable as they set up their positions, lying in wait for the undead lichens. The chapter closed on this scene of anticipation, the camp's fate hanging in the balance. They waited, weapons at the ready, for the imminent arrival of the undead werewolves. In crimson dawn, new moon rising, every moment was a fight for survival, and this ambush was a desperate attempt to tip the scales in their favor. Chapter 8. The clash in the woods. Concealed within the trees and positioned downwind, the ambush team held their breath as the undead werewolves neared their trap. Tense moments passed until the first glimpse of the ghastly pack came into view. "Get ready," Alex whispered, his eyes fixed on the approaching threat. The werewolves moved cautiously, their noses twitching as they sniffed the air. One of them paused, seemingly catching a whiff of the hidden team. "Now!" Alex commanded. In unison, the team hurled their makeshift silver grenades. As the devices exploded upon impact, a cloud of fine silver particles burst into the air, enveloping the werewolves. The effect was immediate and devastating. The creatures writhed in excruciating pain, the silver dust burning their undead flesh. A flurry of silver-coated arrows and projectiles from slingshots followed, striking with deadly precision. 3 of the werewolves staggered and fell under the relentless assault. The remaining 4, despite their agony, lunged towards the source of the attack, driven by primal rage. The team raised their shields, bracing for impact. As the werewolves' claws struck the silver-laden barriers, they howled in pain, the metal searing their skin. Captain Knox, her determination unwavering, thrust a silver-tipped spear into one of the werewolves. Its cry of torment echoed through the woods before it collapsed. One by one, the rest of the werewolves met similar fates, but as the team neutralized the threat, one injured werewolf began to flee. Alex, with a steady hand, drew his bow and released an arrow in a perfect arc. The werewolf tumbled to the ground, ensuring that no survivors could report back to the Alpha. As the team regrouped, a sense of triumph mixed with relief filled the air. "Well, we know silver works, so we got an edge," Alex said, a hint of a smile on his face. Captain Knox looked back at the fallen werewolves, a sense of vindication in her eyes. "That felt good," she said. "This one's for all of Haven." The group made their way back to camp, their victory a reason for celebration. The camp greeted them with cheers, the success of the ambush providing a much-needed morale boost. As the chapter closed, the survivors shared stories and laughter around a bonfire, their spirits lifted by the knowledge that they had an effective weapon against their formidable enemy. In crimson dawn, new moon rising, each small victory brought hope, and hope was the fuel that kept their fight for survival burning. Chapter 9. The Gathering Storm. As darkness enveloped the camp, Varric, the Elder, carefully examined the bodies of the fallen undead werewolves. His findings were of crucial importance. Returning to the camp leader, he shared his assessment. "It is my estimation that our shadow forms are ineffective against these undead lichens. I sense they are created through a similar shadow energy to our own, rendering them immune to our powers. We can assist you against the undead, but not these creatures." Alex and Elena, the camp leader, absorbed this news with a mix of disappointment and resolve. "Well, silver seems to work well," Alex responded. "We'll devise new methods of defense using silver. We'll be ready." Meanwhile, the wounded undead werewolf from the earlier battle against the zombies limped painfully among its fallen pack members. It gazed towards the camp from a distance before beginning its slow journey back to the Alpha's kingdom, carrying crucial information about the humans' defenses. Miles away, in a city overrun by the undead, a unique figure stood amidst the chaos. This zombie, evolved far beyond its kin, observed the decaying metropolis with an almost contemplative gaze, it retreated to its lair, a place of grotesque experiments and macabre creations. Inside the lair, various experiments bubbled and simmered. Creatures were sewn together to form larger, more formidable undead. Regular zombies were subjected to chemical processes, altering their appearance and intelligence. This evolved undead creature, possessing a level of intelligence previously unseen, operated with a knowledge akin to necromancy. It seemed to understand a different type of science and biology, manipulating life and death to its sinister will. As the chapter concluded, the stage was set for an epic encounter. 3 factions stood on the brink of a monumental clash. The humans, with their vampire allies, fortified and armed with silver. The werewolves and their undead pack, led by the formidable Alpha. And now the zombies, evolving under the guidance of their intelligent, necromantic leader. The next chapter of Crimson Dawn, New Moon Rising, promised to be a collision of forces, each with its own strengths and weaknesses, in a battle that would shape the fate of this ravaged world. The epic tale was set to continue, with survival hanging in the balance for all. Thank you for joining me on this chilling journey. If your thirst for the unknown and the unexplained is still unquenched, I invite you to delve deeper into the abyss of terror. Just beyond the veil of reality, another story awaits to send shivers down your spine. Dare to join me in the next video, where the unknown becomes known and the unseen seen. Until then, keep the lights dim and your mind open. This is Professor Shadow, signing off.